Mr. Chairman, we are live on YouTube.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, board members, for taking your time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening. I'd like to call this Wednesday night, September 1st, 2021, Lake Worth Planning and Zoning meeting to order. And Sherry, would you like to take roll? Taking your time out of your busy. Hello?
Hold on, just give us a moment. We're having just a little quick issue. I need to fix something else.
Hello?
Hold on, just give us. Sorry, go ahead and go.
Hi, I'll start over.
Yeah, we got that part, Greg.
Okay, good. Okay, then let's go. Sherry, would you like to take roll?
Sure. Juan Cotton,
Here.
Sage Shamsi Basha,
Here.
Edmund LeBlanc,
Here.
Laura Starr, here, Mark Hum,
Here.
Anthony Morata. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, Sage, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Yes. I'm in a hotel room and I don't have a flag nearby, so I'm not really sure.
Well, just visualize one.
Okay, I'll visualize one out.
There we go.
All right. Please stand.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to
And
the
to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it
It
stands,
stands one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice for all. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, board members. Okie dokie, I'll start out by asking the question, any additions, deletions, shuffling of agenda items or whatever?
Mr. Chairman, there's no change in the proposed agenda.
Okie dokie, then let's move on down. Move on down to approval of the August 4th meeting minutes. Anybody get a chance to read those? Mark, somebody?
I move to approve the minutes from last month meeting.
August 4th meeting. We have a motion
Yeah,
to
the
approve.
August 4th. Exactly.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Okay. We have a couple of things we're gonna discuss tonight, one being PC board 21-005-0000005 for 701 North Dixie Highway, and PCB board 21-003-0000001 and 21-01-300001. That's a land use map zoning adjustment for Barton Road. Okay, as you all know, tonight is also, it's a quasi judicial meeting, meaning that we're going to have testimony that will be given by all sides, and for anybody that is going to be speaking tonight, either for, against, or what have you, now's the time to be sworn in, and Sherry is going to do that for us.
Mr. Chairman, if you just give us a moment.
Take your time, Aaron.
We have to promote all the panelists promote all of the attendees who will be providing sworn testimony.
Right, good. Go ahead. Have at it.
Folks, when you are promoted panelists, please turn on your video and you need to turn on your video and your microphone to allow for Sherry to swear you in.
Thank you.
some folks I'm going to promote to panelists, you're gonna have to say accept. So, in your Zoom application, so, because a couple folks aren't popping over. So just make sure you take a look at your computer. And it'll say rejoin the meeting as a panelist, and you're gonna say okay.
Where are we? Oh, right there.
So if you were providing testimony, I know Ms. Garrison and Ms. Stanley are on. They have, for some reason, I'm not able to promote them. So if you guys did not join with computer audio, then that may be an issue. So you're gonna have to rejoin the meeting with computer audio, and we can swear you in during your item. Right, so you can, please turn on your camera.
Please unmute and turn on your camera. Raise your right hand. Mr. Glidden, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
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 Thank you. And be patient with us for a moment while we move people back to attendees from panels.
So if everybody else could turn off their cameras, I'm leaving some of you and your mics. Staff is going to start with a presentation. I'm not going to change your status, but just to keep things tight here. So you're not speaking right now. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to read, we're ready to move on to unfinished business item A.
I am getting ready to read as you speak. Good evening. This is quasi judicial hearing procedure with affected parties. I'd like to ask the board members if they have had any ex parte communication to disclose for tonight's meeting.
This is for PCB project 20-0140036. This is a request by Cutler Herring on behalf of the Lord's Place for consideration of a residential urban plan development major site plan conditional use right-of-way abandonment to allow the construction of a 7-unit multifamily residence at 825 and 827 South Federal Highway.
Thank you.
I had a phone call from somebody and an email from another person, but that was it.
Okay, anybody else?
Just disclosing that the previous city attorney told me to disclose that I do live across the street from his property, and that's what I had to do to comply with being here giving testimony.
And Elizabeth, we do have some new board members. Could you talk about board disclosures, what the board members should disclose if they have a disclosure real quick?
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, sure. So because this is quasi judicial, board members who have had any contact with somebody who is in favor of or opposing this project, whether it be an expert or the applicant or an interested party, somebody who lives nearby. If you've had those conversations and they may or may not have been able to impact your decision on this project because you're not coming in here not knowing what the project is about at all, then that's what you're disclosing. And you disclose the regulation is that you disclose that you've had conversation, who it's been within the nature of the conversation. So we'll give a little bit more detail as to the phone call and the email that you've had. All of you have received some public comment emails that are made part of the record. So if there is anything other than those emails that are recommended to us.
I need to give their name.
Yes.
Okay, it was Chip Guthrie, and he expressed his views on the project, and you know, it was on the way home tonight. It wasn't you know, I was in my car, so it
Yeah, that's
wasn't.
all you have to disclose is that you had a conversation with them,
Okay.
that you don't believe it will influence your vote.
No, it's not going to influence my vote.
Anyone else? Anything else?
Nothing.
Aaron, I did have also a couple conversations with Chip Guthrie.
It will not influence your vote.
No, it will not.
Say anything for you?
No.
Mr. Chairman, staff has a presentation to start things off, and then just kind of as discussed, staff will present, the applicant will present, and then the affected party will have the opportunity to give a presentation. And then there'll be then another second round for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Please do.
Thank you. For the record, Aaron Seda, Assistant Community Sustainability Director. The item before you, as previously stated, is a request on behalf of the Lord's Place for residential urban plan development, major site plan conditional use right-of-way abandonment. The right-of-way abandonment is not under consideration by this body, but it is noted in the staff report because it includes the additional property of the northern 20 feet. That is an item that is approved by the City Commission. So that's the process for that, but that's why it's a part of the staff report. If the project is proposes to construct a 7-unit multifamily residence at 825 South Federal Highway and 827 South Federal Highway, and then on the portion of the proposed right-of-way abandonment. Here's the site location. You can see it's in the northwest corner. Yes. South Federal Highway and 9th Avenue South. Here are the existing conditions. This is a vacant lot. Again, here's a bird's eye view of the existing conditions. If you recall, this item came before the board in March of 2021. Staff had a recommendation of approval with a recommendation before the board to discuss certain components of the site plan for compliance with the major thoroughfare design guidelines. And that specifically included the parking in the front. So you can see the site has been redesigned with the rendering, the current rendering on the top, and then the parking has been moved to the north side of the property. Here's the proposed site plan, which is included in your packet. Here's a comparison of the current site plan with this to the March 2021 site plan. Here are the proposed elevations. I believe the peak architectural elements on the front on Federal Highway is just over 9 feet now. Height. The surrounding property are a mix of motels, residences, multifamily residences, and some single family multifamily residences to the west. Any planned developments. Planned developments can ask for additional flexibility to relax or waive items in the code. The proposed application is proposing to relax the minimum living area for a 3-bedroom unit. The minimum living area is 900 square feet. The applicant is proposing 636 square feet per unit, but they have provided the living area in common for the residents, taking the total combined living area with the individual unit size provides for a total area per unit of living space of 941 square feet. There's been a public outreach since June of 2020 to the neighborhood association through February of this year. The applicant may have more information. That's what we have today. Staff has made a recommendation of approval with the analysis that the proposed application is consistent with the complex strategic plan, major certain design guidelines, consistent with the city's LDRs, if approved as plan development, and consistent with all criteria for residential plan developments, consistent with the community appearance criteria, general finding of harmony with the LDR and protection of public interest, and consistent with all specific standards for all conditions. Again, staff is recommending approval. The conditions of approval are located on pages 16 to 18 of the staff report. We will turn this over to the applicant. David, I have to change your status to allow you to share your screen. So you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Okay.
Otherwise, we can share your presentation for you.
I got it. All right. So can everyone see the presentation?
You're not on presentation view, so you might want to hit select your sharing.
Are we?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, great.
Full screen.
So good evening, board. David Millage of Kotler and Herring, here in my capacity as a senior project manager on behalf of the Lord's Place. Tonight, we are seeking a approval for urban plan development, conditional use, and major site plan approval. Here is our list of design team members. And I'm going to quickly just hand off to Carrie Diaz, who's the COO of the Lord's Place, to just give you a brief background of the Lord's Place and their outreach and their mission. Carrie?
Thank you, David. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So yes, as David said, my name is Carrie Diaz, and I'm proud to be the COO at the Lord's Place. I am here on behalf of Diana Stanley, who is undergoing medical treatment and could not be here with us tonight. I wanted to explain why we have so many participants that may be able to weigh in tonight. Because we're not all architects or zoning experts, we do have with us Scott Witzel, who's our facilities director at the Lord's Place, David, who you've already met, as our planner. We also have John Glidden and Randy Hansen, who are the architects that brought this vision to life. But I just wanted you to know who the players were, and it's because you guys may ask us some tough questions that I am not equipped to answer. So that's our team. As you can see from this slide, we do a lot of work in this community all throughout the county. And we are not just in the business of taking the homeless and making them home. We're really in the business of transforming lives. And we were lucky enough to already be doing that in this great community. And our next slides, I believe, show a few of our existing properties. We have Burkle Place, the original women's home in Lake Worth, as well as Burkle Place West, which houses our graduate program. And I believe that everyone would consider us to have been very good neighbors in this unique community throughout our time there. Now we have a great opportunity to transform more lives and take 21 women who are mothers, sisters, neighbors, and walk alongside them as they become integrated into the community and get back to work. The 21 beds will be divided in half. Half of them will be women 50 and over, which you may not know is a growing group of the unhomed at this moment. Then the other half will be 18 to 30. And the unique nature of these two different generations working together will be able to provide different viewpoints as they support each other while we walk alongside them with job training and job placement, financial literacy, tutoring, and they will stay with us together as a group for approximately 24 months. And upon graduation, we've been very successful in getting these residents back into the community on their own, a 90% success rate for us to date. And again, we are excited to build another beautiful facility that homes women on their journey here in Lake Worth. And with that, I hand it back to you, David. Thank you for your time.
So the proposed site is approximately ½ acre. It's within the MUFH zoning district. And the applicant is requesting, as I mentioned before, an urban plan development for a multifamily facility. The proposed building is approximately 7,800 square feet under air and will facilitate 7 dwelling units, each 636 square feet. And the project is compliant with the parking code. This is just a graphic showing you the location of the site, as well as its proximity to other zoning districts. The surrounding properties, there's a hotel to the south, and to the east and the west are single family structures, and to the north is a multifamily structure. These are just some street views of the surrounding properties. We have the Sungate Motel to the south. We got some multifamily to the southeast. Here, the top photo is a single family structure, and the bottom photo is a multifamily building that's on the north property line. So here is a colored site plan that we're proposing. You can see, compared to our old design, the parking is side-loaded, and the redesigned building, really engages the street. There is a lot of landscaping around the building, which will greatly beautify the area. So here's a better look at the site plan. Great detail was really given to this redesign. The building is close to the road. It engages Federal Highway. The landscape is spectacular and will easily be the nicest looking property along Federal. With this plan, we're moving the parking to the north side of the property, so it'll be side loaded, which will allow for more of the building to be closer to Federal. Primary access will be from Federal Highway, while there will be a secondary access point off the alley in the rear. And then, as I previously stated, there is an abundance of green space being provided on the site. This is a rendering of the building. It's a coastal modern style. As Carrie has mentioned, we have both John Glennon and Randy Hansen, who are architects for the project. They can answer any specific questions that the board might have. So that you see the architecture, we didn't include all of the landscaping that's being proposed on our landscape plan. With all this additional landscaping, it's going to further soften the building and will create even more engagement with Federal Highway. So now on this slide, we have the floor plan of the building. The applicant is seeking a waiver for the reduction in unit sizes from the code minimum. So this facility has specific programming which engages the use of the common areas, and when these common areas are averaged in, the net unit size is over 140 square feet. The areas now that you see illustrated in blue really show you the significant amount of common area. It has a dining room, a kitchen, a living room, so a lot of additional space for the residents. This increased common area really offsets the need for these larger units that really won't be fully utilized by the resident. So again, The only waiver we're seeking tonight for this urban plan development is as it relates to unit sizes required by code. And as Ms. Sita has mentioned, we are consistent with all of the code requirements for this project. We appreciate staff for their review and for assistance working through this process. This approval will bring a great opportunity to really clean up this area and provide new and fresh architecture while also providing, a safe place for women housing. So again, I wanted to thank staff and for the board for consideration. And I would like to reserve any remaining time to answer any questions from staff or from the board. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, Aaron, who's next?
So next, going to be Portia Cully. Let me make sure she has the right status. And she can, yeah. Portia, you have a maximum of 10 minutes if you want to go ahead and unmute and turn on your
One
video.
second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
What?
Yucatan sauce.
I think that presentation by the Lord's Place was very helpful. As a 50-year-old woman, I just turned 50. It's really hard to go against what the Lord's Place in general, but in what they're doing. They're helping women that need help, which is so important. I wrote down my notes and what I want to say, so I kind of keep on track, and I'm just going to basically read what I wrote. In the beginning of March, the Lord's Place came before the committee requesting approval for the Burkle project. My neighbors and I were made aware of the project by the city distributed notices that informed us that we were allowed to share our thoughts on the project at the meeting. I, along with a few of our neighbors, wrote in to voice our disapproval on a number of variances that were being given to the project. And again, I'm not a real estate person or anything. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but variance is what I use. May not be right. I don't think that this opposition is a case of NIMBY, a concept I learned about in high school. NIMBY is an acronym for Not in My Backyard, and it describes the phenomenon in which residents of a neighborhood designate a new development as inappropriate or unwanted for their local area. As we all know, Lake Worth is a more liberal-leaning town, and I think that people do want to help out and are conscious of helping others. In my opinion, the issue that the neighbor had with the project is not NIMBY, but rather a desire that the project should be subject to the same standards as others. As background, I've told you that I live across from the project in a development that was built in 2006. It's the Pineapple Village project. Despite the director having given his stamp of approval on the project, the committee listened to the neighbors' concerns and voted it down 7-0, saying that modifications were necessary to move forward. According to the August 25th memo from the Department of Community Sustainability, the summary of the meeting was as follows. The PZB recommended denial and highlighted several concerns related to consistency with city's major thoroughfare design guidelines and the applicant's request to relax the minimum number of parking spaces and the minimum living space and dumpster enclosure size requirements. Several residents in the area also expressed concerns on consistency with the major thoroughfare design guidelines, parking in the unpaved right-of-way, and the nature of the residential use. I felt that the major issue that was discussed in the meeting was actually the parking and the right-of-way. I've been living in that property for 15 years, and residents have been using that right-of-way to park on for the 15 years that I've lived there. A month ago, the revised Burkle project came again before the committee, and I was once again put in the extremely uncomfortable position of having to individually oppose a charity that I believe helps many people. I was put in this position because once again, the director put his stamp of approval on the project, despite a number of conditions still outstanding. The main issue of concern that I have is giving away the right of way. And we started this meeting and apparently the right of way is not even up for consideration. It's not even variance. The attorney just said that it's you know, they're requesting a variance to do with property sizes. So maybe this is not the right venue for this, but this is what I'm talking about. What I'm confused about is that months ago, I was shown renderings for the revised project where the right of way is paved and public parking was provided. As a matter of fact, in conversation with Carrie Diaz, who spoke earlier, the COO for the Lord's Place, she said that the revision was a no-go from the city. If the community's principal issue of concern was the parking, why was the Lord's Place attempt to address it declined? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe it has something to do with that additional area giving the project the right to be deemed a residential urban development. What also concerns and puzzles me is that literally a day or two before the March meeting, the city placed no parking signs in the right of way. As an outsider of the process, this seems really odd to me. Was giving away the right of way a foregone conclusion? I refuse to be put in a position that I'm fighting the Lord's Place. All I want is a process that is fair. 15 years ago, my developer had to follow the rules to the T. And as a result, Lake Worth got a beautiful new residential project that fit with its mission. My question to you, as you consider all of this information, is simple. Why can't we do this again? The major thoroughfare guidelines were developed for a reason. If we were not going to follow them, let's just get rid of them. Otherwise, my recommendation is that we not give away public land, and then in order for the project to be approved, the right of way should not be given away, and parking should be restored to those who were using it prior to the city putting up those no parking parking signs, excuse me. Committee members, you generally volunteer your time for the city, and I know you will decide what is best for the city and also very importantly for the Lord's Place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cully. There is Mr. Rice. Right, if you could go ahead and hit the unmute button. I believe that the next portion is the questions portion. You could ask the staff, then the applicant, and then the affected party if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to who has questions that we would like to?
Well, staff doesn't have any questions, so I think it would go then to the applicant. David, does anybody on your team have any questions, Portia or staff?
No, we have no questions, but we're available for any rebuttal.
Thank you. Okay, P&Z board members. Hold on.
Hold on, Ms. Polly, do you have any questions?
Sorry.
Again, I don't want this to be a rebuttal. I pose my opinion as a neighbor. I'm not rebutting anything. I'm just, I'm just sharing my thoughts. So I don't want it to be me against the Lord's Place. I really object to that.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the process of the code. So we have to ask. So, okay. Mr. Rice, I believe we're at board deliberation now. Public comment. Sorry, public comment. I apologize. Thank you.
Are we gonna do public comments first? When do we get to discuss, us being the board?
Let's do public comment and then you can discuss.
Okay, good, very good.
Okay, so I have provided in the meeting packet the comments that were included as part of the previous August 4th meeting where we did not hear the project, as well as the comments that have been received since then. So all of our board members have that in front of them. I will not be reading those into the record at this time. However, they will be included as part of the minutes, part of the record. If anyone wishes to see them at any given time, they can certainly have an email copy or whatever, whatever suits their needs. They are available. And as I said, the board members do have those. Now, since I've been here, I've received another, I believe, 7 to 8 comments. They are not included with the board members' packets, so they will be briefly read, 3-minute limit, into the record.
And Sherry, before you read, if I could just ask the attendees that are online that would like to make a 3-minute public comment on this item, if they could raise their hand. And then we can allow them to make a public comment after Sherry finishes reads every comments.
Yes, and just a quick note, I do have, if you've submitted comments more than once, only one comment will be read. I have some that have submitted more than multiple times. And the comments on at least 2 of the persons that I have here in my recent email have comments included in the packet that the board has. So those comments will not be read. I can tell you specifically who they are, so you don't have concern, but there are at least 2 that you have in front of you that will not be read.
Will be made part of it.
But they are part of the packet. And the ones that I'm about to read will also be included in the packet in the minutes. Well, they will be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Sherry.
All right, so we'll start with, and give me a moment because I have to open each one individually. We're going to start with James Kukla. And his address is 701 Warren Drive, Jupiter, Florida. And he said, the project is important and meets the requirements of the planning and zoning codes, notwithstanding those that wish to invite higher density and more disruptive developments in the neighborhood. I stand in support of the project. Another we have is from Paradiso Restaurant. My name is Angela Romano, and I'm the chef and owner of Paradiso Restaurant for the past 25 years. My restaurant is part of the Lake Worth Beach business community, which is vital to the economy of the Lake Worth Beach. I'm writing to you with great concern about the project at 827 and 827, 825 and 827 South Federal Highway. It has come to my attention that this project does not meet the major thoroughfare guidelines that our citizens have paid a great deal for us to plan the future of Lake Worth in an orderly and beautiful way. I cannot understand why this project is being given such freedom when others are not granted the same freedom against the planning guidelines. In addition, developers are required to provide items that the community needs, like parking, which has not been even considered for an area which is in dire need of parking. Should this project be passed, it will set a precedent for others to do as they wish and not respect guidelines we have in place and produce bad developments. As a business owner who cares about how the major entries into the city look, I would not support this concept, as it is quite frankly not what Lake Worth needs. The next one is from, and I apologize.
Give it a try. Just give it a try. Mark will help you.
Panagiota Solkis of 822 North C Street is in support of the Burkle Place. This is a way to show support for everyone in our community. Sue Welsh, 1331 North Palm Way. I would encourage the board to support this project. The Lord's Place is a cornerstone in our country, in our county, for providing support to people with a comprehensive understanding of the nuances of our region. This project aesthetically fits with what exists in our adjacent properties and makes sense for our community. I would welcome a similar project in my backyard, as the Lord's Place has proven time and again that they are good for the community and good neighbors. Jacqueline Marcus, 1224 16th Avenue North. I'm an outreach worker that serves the homeless community and would like to say that I support the city voting yes for the Burkle Place project. We need more affordable housing and more options for our homeless neighbors transitioning back into a normal routine. We have Dana Torres. Good evening, my name, 631 North J Street, Lake Worth Beach. Good evening, my name is Dana. I fully support this project and hope it is processed as expeditiously as the Deco Green project because poor people deserve dignified housing too. We actually had a second comment from her, since we're under the limit, I'll read that one too. Good evening, my name is Dana Torres. Last week I received a courtesy notice from the city about this project happening 400 feet from my home. I don't know enough about the project to support or reject it. However, once again, I see another project coming into the city with very little engagement on behalf of the project team or planning and zoning. Not only was this 1 week notice not enough time for me to do research, speak with my neighbors and local businesses who also will be impacted, the notice also excludes low-income folks who have limited access to the internet, don't own property, and or don't speak English. Participating in these conversations have become extremely privileged, and that is incredibly unfair, inequitable, and exclusionary of the working class and low-income households. Had I been a non-English speaking low-income renter with limited access to the internet, living less than 400 feet from this project, I would have been excluded from this conversation. Let's not continue to marginalize already marginalized communities. And if the Planning and Zoning Department is unable to make this process more equitable there, then hire people who will. As far as this project, I asked the project to contribute direct business grants to neighboring BIPOC businesses in exchange for special provisions. So BIPOC businesses are supported should they be negatively impacted by this project, as well as contribute to the cost of future impacts by deliveries, events, trash, and increased traffic in the area that may affect the homes existing directly behind this property. And I believe that is the totality of the comments that have been received.
Thank you, Shay.
You're welcome.
Okay, Aaron, now what would you like us to do?
I think that if there's no rebuttal, which Ms. Coley has indicated she does not have, and staff does not have, if the applicant doesn't have rebuttal, then I think we would find a board deliberation.
Okie dokie. That being said, board members, who has questions, comments, concerns? Now's our chance to discuss these things in public. Not that we've discussed them anywhere else, but now's our chance. Juan, you live closest to this project. Any comments?
I do. I have several comments.
Thank you.
Just wanted to see if somebody else would say something
I
first.
thought these things were an icebreaker.
Want me to go first? I have questions.
Do you want to go first? It's fine. I'll do it. It's fine. I really, I know people on the board at the Lord's Place. I agree very much with their mission, and I very much am in support of what they do. The only issue is that there are certain things within the planning that myself, being an architect, having a great deal of clients that go through a great deal of financial and sort of personal turmoil to get their projects done because of certain guidelines and things that are imposed in this city while we're trying to make a much better place here. And the issue that I find is that there were people, I'm seeing these letters and things in here, quite a few of them from the Lord's Place employees or some of the people who have worked there as, I guess, outreach workers and things, and that's all great. But I'm looking at the community that lives right around it, and what Ms. Cully was saying was correct. The parking space that is now being taken over has been a vital parking space for many years. And even with no parking signs, which are not enforced, by the way, there hasn't been the first car towed from there. They've been parking there for years, and now with the no parking signs, they are still there. With that's proof that people really need this. So that's one thing. The bigger issue that I have is that there is something about the guidelines that are important. The 2 stories, for instance, and then also the parking right on Federal Highway. While it has been turned around, I think that there's some major flaws with it. And I think part of it is, number one, they're taking advantage, obviously, of a parking apron that's there for cost reasons, I would think, which is fine. But in this case, it leaves us back to the old motel concept that's all over Federal Highway they're trying to get rid of. The macro part of it is, if you look at it as an architect or a planner, with the 9th Avenue South gone, if the hotel or motel, which is kind of decrepit and not doing very well, if that ever gets sold and redeveloped, we will also have to do another parking space that is outside, because they won't have an access through a side road. And that's an issue, because if the guidelines are saying to have everything toward the front and to have landscape on it, that doesn't mean parking lots and utilities and things like that. So it's a major flaw not there, but it's also causing a ripple effect in the future for the property next door. And that's a reality. If you look at it any single way, there's no way to enter through the side now through an access road that would or should have parking. And those are some of my issues there. The bigger thing is, I'm looking at someone who wrote, it's a little crude, but they talked about the garbage being in the back. It is true that on that street, the garbage comes twice a week, starting at 6 a.m. And now, can we go back to the Lloyd's Place to the site plan, please? You have it, Erin?
Yeah, Deborah's pointed out.
Thank you. Okay, so if we look at it, the garbage is in the back and the people.
Can we enlarge that, please? There we go.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the garbage is in the back and the parking apron that will be used, right? They will take this all the way to the back, okay? When that happens, there'll be a truck that is a little bit foul in terms of the smells. And there's a two-story building right next door that people's balconies look right over it. And it's gonna be beep, 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 starting 6 a.m. twice a week. If you live there, I think you would hear that pretty badly. And the fact that the garbage is in the back and you'd have those smells coming through, all because you wanted to use a parking apron that was existing there. I think the Lloyd's Place could do a little better than that and somehow redistribute this to be a little better than that. I think in a way that leaves a bad precedent, and it leaves something that architecturally doesn't consider the neighbor next door. On the other side, I see here that there are, somewhere in your staff report, Aaron, you say that the applicant wasn't putting air conditioners in the part that they're acquiring for the right of way. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't believe that they are. Yeah, the mechanical equipment is out.
Okay, but they're just right next to it. Is that correct? Okay, so, there's things in there that they're in there and it's a bit sugar coated. And I'm wondering back to, go to the front facade, the rendering. Go to the other, yeah, here. Why is it every time that I do a building in this town, I have to talk about context and the neighbors and things like that, and I include them in my drawings? That's correct, right? Because we do that all the time with you guys.
That's a historic preservation requirement.
Okay, well,
But what we did do is we did look at massing,
Yes.
and we did an analysis of massing, and that is the major thoroughfare development requirement, is that it's generally consistent with the massing.
Right.
And we typically require for new development coming in on a thoroughfare of at least 8, we try to get most of the building or portions of the building to be at least 18 feet if it's a one-story configuration.
okay, so on the other thoroughfares that I've done them, we've included the side, and for some reason, the parking lot is left out here, okay? And also the building with the 2 stories is left out that would be affected. And that to me makes no sense. So it would be good if there was some honesty in this, because obviously this drawing is showing me that they know something's up, but obviously they want to exclude it somehow. And I feel that that's something that, it should be considered one way or another in our deliberations. Let me see, a couple other things. Aaron, I asked you the last time, does the project meet all the major thoroughfare guidelines? Yes or no?
Yes, it does.
It does meet all the thoroughfare guidelines
Yes.
with the parking in front?
Well, the parking is, side loaded parking is permitted, so you can have a parking lot on the side. And so that is the nature of lots on a lot of our thoroughfares, because when we've looked at other commercial projects coming in, we try to encourage rear loaded whenever there's alley access or it's a corner street. So this is not a corner property with a right of way abandonment. So properties along federal highway that are not on the corner properties can't be rear loaded. They have to be accessed from federal highway.
Well, or it should be accessed from a street that's not developed next door, that someone, a developer would have to go and develop and pay for the sidewalk, is that correct? And then, yes, and it would have to also be set up for a few parking spaces that were there, which might also be a nice place to put, I don't know, maybe the part of the garbage that might bother the neighbor. I mean, what I'm bothered by is that there's a whole parking structure set up only because there's an existing parking apron that costs a few $1,000s, where there could be, you could solve a lot of the issues by using 9th Avenue, having a few parking spaces and putting the garbage there and having the rest of that project work very nicely with the community. And I think everybody would have no problem. But now you're putting a big inconvenience on a lot of people. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you all may want to discuss as a recommendation to the city commission. The public works department, planning and zoning does not, we don't govern right of way abandonments. That's not our authority or something that we, so this right of way was identified to be abandoned. And if that's not, if that's something that you want to recommend the city commission look at and not allow it to be abandoned, I think the issue from my understanding from talking to public works was on the other property, the developer owned both sides of the right of way. So when they developed the street, they retained it as parking and developed those sides of the street. Here, the southern half of the street would go, and a right of way, when the right of ways are abandoned, and correct me if I'm wrong, the abandonment happens and the parking, it's the right of way is almost kind of like a really aggressive easement, basically. When we abandon the right of way, it goes back to the adjacent property owner at the midpoint of the right of way. So because this would only get at the northern 20 feet to provide on-street parking and have the necessary access to access that parking.
have you seen across the street? They have half of the right of way done and the developer did it and the other side is undone.
And that's what public works said. They didn't feel like that was
I
that there
think
was
that's
enough to
BS.
turn around and.
Not acceptable, because the other person did it right across the street, and that's a fact. That's been there for 15 years. They provided parking, they paid for a sidewalk, they paid for an entry that's the street. The building does not have a big parking lot up front, which this still does. It's been camouflaged in another way. So I really think that what you just said makes no sense, because take a look at what's across the street, and it's real, okay? So I don't understand why this group can't come in, provide a few parking spaces and a sidewalk, because it might be out of budget or something else, and put the garbage
It's
right
their
in.
project, so you have to ask them.
I'm asking, I'm saying this is what it is. And this is, I think, the revolving issue around this project, right? So I don't understand what the big deal is to get this done correctly and to keep happy with the rest of the community. I understand that they have to have their end of it, which I'm coming to the next part of it. The 636 square foot unit, I understand this is interior stuff. The planning and zoning typically doesn't look at this, but at the same time, it was asked for a variance. That's one of the things that they're asking, right? For it to have changed from 900 square feet. Do you know why apartments are set up for 3 bedrooms at 900 square feet?
Go on, yeah, please.
Okay, they're set up that way because people have ADA requirements, which I very much doubt you're going to get every one of these to meet. You're going to have a very hard time meeting ADA, and there are going to be people that are compromised that are going to be living there, which would need those requirements. So, some of these things just don't make sense, all to squeeze in a bunch of people, okay? I understand that this project will get state funding and some federal funding, as well as private funding from donations and things, and that's great, right? But with those things, I think You need to make the best use for the people that are gonna be there and the people that are around. And then it would be a perfect placement. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Juan.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a person who hadn't quite raised their hand during the time of public comment that would like to speak during public comment. Would you like to allow that person to speak?
Yes, we would.
Okay. I'm going to promote them to panelists, and then they can speak for 3 minutes. Sherry, if you could. I don't believe Mr. Guthrie has been sworn in.
Swear him in.
Mr. Guthrie, if you could please turn on your video and turn on your audio and be sworn in by Sherry.
Okay, Chip, I see you, so turn on your camera. Are you on your phone?
And if I can just, Mr. Guthrie, if you can please turn on your video and your audio. And then if I could just remind everybody, the chats are all public record, and we ask people to not do the chats. So,
Oh, okay.
did you join by computer audio, Chip? Are you not able to turn on your video? You can promote it.
He said he's on his cell phone, I think.
Okay, he's gonna have to rejoin, unfortunately, because he can't unmute and participate. So
Tell him what to do.
if you can please rejoin and then or turn on your video and audio if you're able.
He said, okay.
Okay.
Now you guys gotta stop using the chat. Okay, so Chip, we're gonna get back to you. Why don't we continue with board member comments, and then we can regroup and rejoin.
Okay, who on that panel up there wants to go next?
I have a quick question for the applicant. I was wondering if they could go into a little more detail on the communal living space and one.
We lost you. We lost you at your last.
Particular thing that I'd like you to address is whether there are restricted hours. Am I coming through now? I'm sorry.
Can you try to repeat that and make it all one quick sentence?
Am I coming through?
You're not coming clear.
Yes. I was wondering if you could talk more about the communal living spaces.
Okay. Who would like to address his?
And specifically, can you just?
I believe that would be David Millage on behalf of the applicant or somebody from their team.
David, are you there?
Yes, I heard part of the question. One was related to the use of the communal spaces. And I think that either Randy or John or potentially Carrie could articulate more of the reason and the programming of the facility.
I'm happy to start it off. The whole reason that we're successful in this supportive housing is that we create these women that work together as a team. So the concept on the communal living is that you wouldn't be eating or watching TV in your room. You would come out and share that communal space. It's also the communal spaces where we have therapy. That is where all of the programming occurs with our staff is in that communal space. I'm not sure if that was your question, if it was more of an architectural question.
That is my question. I'm just trying to, so the issue is whether the reduction in bedroom size is offset by the increase in communal space. So I'm trying to get a better sense of to what extent is this space communal, truly communal, are there restricted hours, things like that, because I think that's sort of the rationale behind the bedroom minimal size.
It is truly communal. That space will be available to everyone, like it would be, if you picture a dorm and then there's that communal space where everyone has access to it all the time, it is their shared living room, as if you had roommates and you were all there together, supported and using that communal space.
Okay. So not like in an apartment, maybe in an amenity room or a clubhouse that might close at 10 p.m. It's not like that. It's truly
Not at all.
Okay.
It's truly communal space. It's
All right.
part of the program design.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else have a question while we're trying to get Chip on the phone?
Chip is available.
Okay.
Sherry, you need to be sworn in, Mr. Guthrie.
Please, Chip, turn on your audio.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes. I can't hear you.
Muted.
No, he's not muted.
No.
Be volume.
Oh, really? Tell me, can't hear it.
We still can't hear you. Hold on.
With the game audio.
All right, I think we'll have them try to rejoin again, and maybe we can go on to admin, Mr. Chairman. While we're waiting for Chip to rejoin.
Okay. PG board, who would like to speak next, ask their questions or whatever?
I had a few questions.
Go ahead.
First, is it, under the conditions of, I think it's the conditions of approval on number 6, it mentions, I'm sorry, number 7, it mentions, depict the total elevation, the total length of the east elevation. I wasn't sure, did we not see the total east elevation?
Sorry, could you please say that?
I thought it was the conditions of approval. Number 7.
Oh, that was sorry, that should have been.
That was what, Aaron?
Yeah, I believe they provided that east elevation. That was that rear elevation.
Aaron, why aren't we on TV tonight? On YouTube?
You are on YouTube, Mr. Chairman.
We are?
Yes.
I couldn't find it.
And we have the east, south and north elevation. That was from the March snow. I apologize. So that just for the note, that should be
Other questions?
So they've already met that condition?
yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize.
I had a few other questions.
Go ahead.
I don't know if we could bring the site plan up, but there was mention about the dumpster. I just, like to clarify, does the dumpster, typically there's a dumpster enclosure with a wall around it. How tall is the wall? Is it landscaped around it? I don't think I saw a landscape plan in the presentation, but some discussion about that. If we might be helpful?
Sure, dumpster enclosures in the city, are required to be a minimum, are required to be, 6 feet in height. The dumpster has to be fully enclosed and requires a landscape surrounding it. Pull up the landscape plan.
Yeah, typically a landscape plan would be helpful for the rest of it too. To the
Yeah, all
front
of that is
especially.
in your packet, so we just do kind of the site plan and the presentation, but the remaining items are in your packet.
Oh, what's the setback on the dumpster from the property line? Do we know what that is? Or the dumpster enclosure?
From which property line?
Well, it's
Test,
very,
test.
it appears to be close to the north property line.
On it.
Test, test.
Go ahead. Okay, there he is. Can we come back to you?
Hey, can we see the site plan maybe?
Yeah, we're pulling up the direct PDF. Sorry, it's her computer, so I'm not.
It's okay, it's okay, but.
There it is. She had it all pulled up. No, there we go.
Excuse me, I'm testing for audio. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is the dumpster enclosure there.
Is there any way to zoom in?
David, could you, I don't recall off the top of my head what the hedge there is. I'll have to pull up the detail. Could you please speak to the board member about the specific screening around your dumpster enclosure?
Yeah, so the dumpster enclosure is a concrete block enclosure with metal louver doors that would obviously remain closed with the exception of whenever Public Works comes and picks it up. The dumpster location, size, and materials were all approved by the city's Public Works Department. The setback to the rear is 5 feet, and it looks like the setback to the north property line is at least 10 feet.
Let's see. Can I ask him a question? Can I ask him a question? I was gonna ask him a question. Is that okay?
You want to ask a question?
Yeah, no, it's him. Because you're talking. I don't know.
Or if you want to jump in, you have another question, sure.
Mr. Millage, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
There was some commentary, and I guess some of the people, did you realize, I mean, even putting the dumpster there, and I understand that the Public Works people have a standard for it. Did you realize there's a 2-story building just next door to that people look down onto that dumpster?
Well, the location of the dumpster.
That's a yes
really,
or no. That's a yes or no question, though, isn't it? Did you know there's a 2-story building there, or did the person that put that there realize that?
No.
Somebody sits on their terrace there every night, right in that back unit. And they'll be looking down at that dumpster, okay? And there's letters to that effect here. And that's where the issues are. So there was a simple yes or no. Did you or did you not know that there was a 2-story building with a terrace right on top of where the dumpster is?
To be fair, there is a 2-story building with an open walkway to the north. So the same argument could be applied to if the dumpster is located anywhere on the northern property line, the impact would be the same.
Absolutely.
Pursuant to code, we have satisfied the code requirement as it relates to the dumpster location And we received approval from the professional staff of the Public Works Department as it relates to the dumpster location and how it will be accessed by the city's public workers.
I still had a couple more questions. I don't know if, but should we move on to the public comments since somebody actually seems to be?
I think it would probably just finish our questions and we can go
Okay.
back to Chip.
Okay, sounds good. So my other question is just the discussion of the right of way and how that relates to parking. I wonder if we could just have some clarification on that because I don't seem to quite understand in terms of the site plan, like exactly where the right of way is. It's being abandoned. How does that affect the alley or is it?
It doesn't affect the alley. So basically, the southernmost 20 feet of the site plan is in the previously abandoned alley. So about that piece about there.
I see. Okay, and that's really an issue that we don't have any authority on that
Well,
issue.
I think that you all could make a recommendation to the city commission if they're abandoning that to not abandon or to abandon, but allow for like sort of private public parking. If you wanted to make that recommendation, but like I said, the feedback we got internally was that it was difficult there. I don't think that if that's a concern of the board, then you should make that in your recommendation to the city commission. Your advisory, that's your nature, and that would be appropriate to include in your motion.
So in the discussion, do I understand correctly now that like that is currently used as parallel parking on, and what would that be, 9th Street?
It's an unused right of way, and people have used it for parking, but it is not paid for parking. It's an unimproved area. So people have used property that is unimproved to park in. And sometimes that happens, but it was never developed or paved or dedicated for public parking.
If the right of way was not abandoned in this particular fashion,
It was unimproved. So the
if it
right-of-way
is.
Right, that right of way is unimproved. And I guess this was identified by the Public Works team that this was inappropriate, the segment of 9th Avenue South was appropriate to abandon. There's 5th Avenue South and 9th Avenue South has portions of the right of way that don't go all the way through to Dixie. And so sometimes there's pieces of the right of way and they've decided that those portions of the right of way are okay to abandon to the adjacent property owner. You actually see this a lot more on the north end of the city and smaller in some of the residential areas where you get a longer block. So because there's the previous through road there had been abandonment on 9th Avenue South, so the road doesn't go all the way through to Dixie. So
Oh, I see. So the right of way that we're talking about was a planned road.
At one time, yes.
That never became a road, was never paved.
right, so the original city was platted in the 1920s with a road network. So over time, there have been streets or things over time that the city has abandoned. Different commissions have felt differently about that. And so this section of 9th Avenue South doesn't go all the way from Federal to Dixie. So the Public Works Department said that this particular segment could be abandoned. So that's all I know of. That's the piece that I know about. So I can't speak to all the other policy issues or other things that went into that, but that's they were, and the Lord's Place, since it was available to be abandoned, I guess they requested it. Maybe we can shed more light into those conversations with the Public Works Department.
I have a question, Aaron. With the right of way, same thing. If the square footage of the right of way is taken away, would they still have a planned unit development, enough space, enough square footage for it?
So yeah, they could, I mean, they're not, they might have to shift things around a little bit, but they're really, the only waiver they're asking is for
The
unit size.
600 square foot.
Yeah, and you can see that, like,
But does the square footage though make them have the over 0.5 acre for the planned unit development? Like if that went away,
yeah.
they would still have it.
I think that's part of the issue, is I think that they don't need the.
They don't have
they're-
it without, yeah.
Yeah, they're
without-
tight.
So they need that space or that square footage
To get their variance.
in order to qualify.
Just to be clear, like when I see the plan there and I see it blue, is that the right of way or?
Yes.
Okay,
That's the right of way.
That's
But I
not
s-
the exact, I mean, then we just kind of like,
okay. Well,
You know,
approximate.
Deborah just drew a line, we're like, hey, we're
Approximate.
ballparking it here, you know?
Okay, but I also see like a curb cut that appears to be south of that. Okay, so,
That's the entire right of way, it's a 40-foot right of way.
okay,
20 feet of the right of way would be dedicated to Barco Place.
20 feet, and then what would happen to the other
It would
side?
go to the adjacent side.
It would go
The
to
other
the
side.
owner
Yeah, the
on the
property owner.
south.
And they'll keep it as dirt.
I see.
So basically, the right of way is being used as the linchpin for the variance they need for the 600 square feet is what you're telling me.
Correct.
They
Yes.
pushed to come forward as a plan development and in order to meet the standard for the plan
But
development.
that basically is what pushes it over the 0.5 acreage, right? Yes, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? I have some. Mark, did you have any questions?
And that's basically the same comment, given the parking away. I mean, everywhere in the city, we need parking everywhere. It's all and it's like we're just giving it away. We got it there and being utilized as parking. I just don't understand that. That's all.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Next
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
Is there somebody from the Lord's Place that can answer the questions?
Yes.
They're all on
Are
here.
you from the Lord's Place? Oh, okay.
No, she's our staff.
Oh.
Yeah, no, she's the project manager.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, but this, David online, David Mellon, can you please, if you could address him, he's online, he'll pop up, Laura, when he speaks, so.
I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Okay, where do these women come from?
I'll defer to Carrie Diaz with the Lord's Place.
We get referrals in many ways, and they are screened to make sure that they're appropriate for this kind of supportive housing program.
Okay, where do they come from? That didn't really answer my question. Can you tell me where they come from? Are they coming from prison? Are they coming from drug rehab centers? Are they coming from under? I don't know where they're coming from.
That is hard. That's hard to answer. Each person comes in a unique way. We get many referrals from neighbors. We get referrals, self-referrals. We get referrals from the county who has a homeless clearing center. So we get our clients in a variety of ways. I mean, much like an apartment building might get an applicant in a variety of ways. They're coming to us for assistance from all over the community, and many probably right there in Lake Worth.
Do they have vehicles? Are they committed to have vehicles?
That's
my question. Are they committed to have vehicles?
And sometimes they do, and sometimes they do not. Many times they use public transportation.
Okay, but my question is, are they permitted to have vehicles?
The answer would be yes. They are
Yeah.
permitted to have
Yeah.
vehicles.
Okay.
This project does meet all parking requirements of the code.
I understand that was just part of my question. So the first part of my question was, are they permitted to have vehicles? And then the second part is, if there's 3 women in each, or 3, I guess 3 women in each unit, potentially with 7 units of 3 bedrooms, there could be 21 people with vehicles
And staff.
and staff. And the other question I have is, are they allowed to have visitors?
Are they allowed to have visitors?
Yes.
Certainly. There are, with all of our properties, they're allowed to have visitors, of course, because they may have family that wants to visit them as they go through this process. But there are rules around when visitors are allowed to be there and what areas they're allowed to be in as part of the programmatic elements. Back to the car situation, like any city urban area, not everyone's going to have a car, and we do have vans that can drive the women to the jobs that we get for them. So I don't anticipate, nor has it ever been a problem at any of our other facilities to have too many cars. You will find them basically using public transportation the majority of the time. And that's just experience right there in Lake Worth.
Curfews? Do they have curfews?
Do they have curfews?
Yeah, are they required to be on the premises or in their rooms by a certain time?
I'm not equipped to answer that for this specific new program, but in most of our facilities, yes, they do have curfews. I don't know what it is for this particular program, but in all of our programs, there are curfews.
So what does the curfew require? That they be in their room by a certain time?
That they be on site by a certain time, and we have staff to confirm that.
Okay, is there a requirement that they be in their own room by a certain time?
No, I don't believe that is a requirement, nor do I think it's a code requirement.
I'm just asking, it's just a question.
Yeah, no, and I'm just trying to get give you the flavor of how it operates. It's supportive housing. So like I said, people come to us like you would go to apply to be in an apartment, but when they come on site, there are rules that they all agree to because they're in this supportive space where the program element is so important to them.
And is there, I don't know if this is a question for you or for Mr. Millage, is there a reason why you can't make the units 900 square feet as opposed to 600 square feet? And I'm just rounding the numbers, but is there a reason you're asking for a 30% reduction? That's a big reduction to living space. And the units all have living rooms and kitchenettes. So it's not like they're forced to be in the common living room or the common kitchen area. They have their own kitchenette, their own living room in their unit, but their units are going to be designed 30% less than they should be. And it opens the door for future developers to come into our community and ask for the same concession. And they would be saying, might not be the same exact situation, but they'd say, well, we have a gym and we have a rec room and we have an exercise area and we have a pool. So those are common areas that people can use. So therefore we should be allowed to build units that are 30% less than our code requires.
There are no limitations to access to those common areas, but I would love for John Glidden on our team, who was really the designer of the physical elements, to respond, if you would, John. Could you unmute yourself?
Hello, John.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I mean, the reason that we need the waiver on the square footage is to accommodate a program like this that can house these women who are, by the way, trained in how to do resumes, interviews, all of that. They're all working toward being able to become independent residents of the area. And if we had to build 900 square feet for every apartment, the people would these women would stay in the room. The whole concept is to join in the whole community process. And that's why we have a nominal sized living room and a slightly smaller 3-bedroom apartment.
Mr. Glidden? Yes?
Yes. Yes.
I understand you've been an architect for quite a while, right?
Long time.
There you go. Okay. Have you ever thought of, I firmly believe you're going to have issues with ADA requirements in these apartments. And I also believe, yes, you will. And I also believe you may want to talk to the fire department because of at 2 a.m, these people are all in their rooms and they have to get out because of a fire in those narrow hallways. There's gonna be issues. And I can tell you that right now.
Can I answer that?
Yes, you can.
First of all, we meet all ADA requirements throughout the entire facility and in the units. Secondly, the hallways are I think 5 feet wide and there's numerous exits. We meet every exiting requirement required by the state of Florida building codes and the life safety codes.
Mine sure doesn't look like it, but
Well, we do.
So when you decided to do this project, you knew, I assume somebody knew Lake Worth's building code and its requirements.
Of course, yes.
Okay, and knowing that, you went ahead and designed a property in which you knew you were gonna ask for a waiver of making the units 30% smaller than our code requires, barely meeting the parking requirements, some other issues that everybody has covered. And the reason for building the units 30% smaller is to force these people to spend time out of their units?
Yes, this is not a traditional apartment building where everybody rents an apartment and they go in their apartment and stay there. This is a community situation. And by the way, we meet every single bit of the parking requirements. So I don't understand.
I know, well, you barely meet our minimum. And that's, like everyone else here has said, and all the neighbors are saying, we have a real parking problem in Lake Worth. And so almost every project that comes before us, we're being asked for a concession on parking. Now we're being asked for a concession to allow people to make the units smaller than they're supposed to be. And it's always the minimum.
I think that probably every family project that comes before the city is hitting just the required parking. Very, very rarely has anybody add a bunch of extra parking. And the reason for the 30% is what I told you before, is that it's part of the concept of the communal process and getting these women back on their feet and back into the population and working jobs.
Right, which is to my point, that if every other project that comes before us barely meets the parking requirements, now you're asking for a waiver on the size of the units. Going forward, we're gonna have everybody else asking for a waiver on the size of the units. And we're gonna hear about how we gave that to the Lord's Place. Why can't we get it?
Well, again, we're meeting the code requirement for parking. And if there's an issue relating to the parking rates that are provided for in the code, then it's probably something that you should bring up to staff and have presented to the city council for them to revise their parking code. But as it stands now, we've checked all the boxes. We've met all the code. We meet the thoroughfare guidelines. We meet all the standards provided for as nicely and condensedly provided by staff in one of their slides. There's a checklist of all of the requirements we had to comply with, and we have hit all of those check boxes. So the deficiencies throughout the city and based off of all the other developers shouldn't be a burden upon the Lord's Place to try to recoup some of that parking for them. Our project was designed to satisfy the code and provide adequate parking for the residents of the Lord's Place, not the residents of everyone else in the city.
By the way, I'd like to say that if this were just a traditional apartment building, we would have the same square footage in the overall building that we have now. It wouldn't change. Our communal space more than meets the requirement for the 900 square feet when you prorate it against the 21 or against the 7 apartments. There's 7 apartments here.
A question for both of you. If you did not have the right of way, this project would not be set up this way. You wouldn't have the parking that you have. And you wouldn't be asking for 600 square foot apartments with 3 bedrooms. Is that correct? Without the right of way. It doesn't mean unit development.
If we cannot get the right of way, we would not qualify to seek the UPD. So therefore, we would not have the opportunity to seek waivers.
Yeah.
As you know, waivers and variances are totally different mechanisms.
And we were told that the city had absolutely no interest in improving the right of way. That's why it was suggested that we petition to abandon half of it to our property.
But it seems like
Correct.
the community has a very different view on that.
The
So-
Public Works Department, has no future plans to improve the right of way. Any parking on the right of way is against the city's code.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because they did it across the street and they made the developer do it. The reason that the Public Works doesn't have it, and just hear me out, okay? The reason Public Works doesn't have it is because they force the developers and people like you to come in and give to the community. That's the difference, okay? So they don't do it. The guy across the street, have you seen the sidewalk and about the 6 or 7 parking spaces that are there? You haven't seen that either, right? Just like the 2-story space across the street. That's fine.
You could be as hostile or lack decorum as what
I'm not being hostile. I'm telling you, you're, okay, then you could be a liar. You calling me hostile? I mean, all day long, you're telling me we've done this, we've done that. I mean, I'm sitting here and you're not answering, deflecting questions.
How am I being deflecting? I've answered your questions, although they're not with any context. The board should rely upon their professional staff, which has fully reviewed this plan, has fully reviewed the code, and has recommended approval, and has further stated on the record that this project meets all code requirements and meets all of the guidelines within the major thoroughfare.
If we were here to rubber stamp what the staff has, then they wouldn't need us. We were here appointed as a board to hear what the community has to say, to hear what the residents have to say, to hear what people, property owners surrounding it, to hear what the businesses like Paradiso has to say. We're not just here to rubber stamp it. We're here to also hear what you have to say and then weigh what's in the best interest of the community and the people who've lived here for 15 and 20 years.
If the staff says.
The authority of the board
If I may,
has to.
I think we're getting out the normal process here and we're getting in an argumentative state over something. The nature of the hearing is that staff is considered, the public testimony is considered, and there's a discussion by the board. I think that we're going down a rabbit hole that is just not productive. Let's stick back to the subject of the actual item, and then
Are there more specific questions of the applicant if the board is ready to hear if there are any closing arguments or if the closing arguments have been made? I can give you a summary of what your role is as decision makers in this item, and then we can move forward toward a motion and a vote.
and it sounds like you guys have I don't know that everybody on the board has gotten a chance. I think Greg and have heard from Mr. Guthrie yet, but if you all have concerns about the project.
I'm here.
You can recommend approval with additional conditions, or you can recommend denial with additional recommendations for how the project should be changed. And in your discretion as an advisory board, that's your role, is to hear from the staff report, the public, and your own deliberation. So, Chip, did you want to go ahead and give your public testimony for 3 minutes?
I would if I could, please. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay. Oh, God. I thought we were going through this again. Okay, again, I apologize for the prior malfunctions, but I did take out of what the staff's recommendations were. If this is approved as a plan development, then it meets the criteria. If it is not approved as this plan development, I think urban plan development, then it is not. So my comments are as thus: that at the March meeting, after this board rejected the first attempt at the subversion of the guidelines to build a structure that's out of character for the neighborhood, Cotler and Hearing created a rendering of a new design. You all have a copy of that. I think Sherry passed it out to you.
I'm not sure.
It was
Yes.
not? Okay,
Oh, no, you were asking, you would have to submit it for the record. That's what you're asking now.
I'm asking to submit for the record, yes, and I was asking to give, and I also, there's also a larger or larger picture of the project across the street, catty corner, where the developer did have to improve the right of way, putting in sidewalks, and he paved the entire street all the way back to the alley. The notable change was the developer would make improvements to 9th Avenue South, adding sidewalks and on-street parking, along with paving the portion of the street from Federal Highway to the alley to the west. You have a copy of that rendering. This change not only increased the parking for the development, but it improved the surrounding area of our neighborhood. Abandoning the 9th Avenue right-of-way will cause irreparable harm to the neighborhood by taking away precious public parking. Please reject this portion of the plan in favor of requiring the developer to improve the right-of-way with sidewalks and paving and on-street parking for their project as well as the neighborhood's needs. The development catty corner was required to do this, and it is beautified to the area. Although the dumpster was still mere feet from the front doors of the adjacent condominium apartments, it should still be moved to a place the board would consider, and a compromise would be adequate. Our predominant southeast breeze will send fragrant wafting of garbage smells across the front doors of all those next door neighbors. I'd like to remind the board that this structure will be here for decades. The requirements for apartment minimum square footage are being disregarded, and the proposed rooms leaves so little to no space for living, and they actually resemble prison cells. At the community congregating area, it also morphs into what looks like a prison block. If the proposed use ever changes, the result will be catastrophic for the neighborhood, making this a substandard, low-income housing project, which would fall far short of our minimum standards for parking, for instance. This is the project up to ADA standards? I heard that it was. The first time this project came before your board, the developer was given pretty clear instructions about what was expected and was sent back to the drawing board. I urge you again to require the developer to make changes more in line with our own guidelines. That's the end of my comments, and I thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Chip. Caught you sleeping, huh? There we go.
Mr.
Laura,
Chairman,
were you getting ready to say something, Laura?
me, no.
Okay.
And maybe if you could ask if any other board members have comments, and then if you all want to move into deliberation.
I will do that. Anybody, any other members of the board have any comments, questions? Well, I want to thank you all for your questions and the comments that we've just mined up, and like to get a feeling now. As we all know, we can add special conditions of approval, or recommend special conditions of approval. That happens all the time, and I think there's probably some opportunities here to be able to insert some of those things to make this an even better situation for the community, a better project actually for the community. I think that we have to rethink a lot of things in today's society, and I also think that maybe 900 square feet is a little big for what's going on now, and I think that that might be something that we need to redo our code for certain specifics. But once was a time when everybody had a white picket fence, your house, and 2 acres and a cow. But we don't live in that society anymore. So these are things that we need to take into consideration. And so some of those comments or suggestions might be something that we want to incorporate for this project. Yes, we do know that the Lord's Place serves the community, has for many, many, many decades now, I guess. And we hope they will for many, many decades in the future. But there's also the possibility, as Mr. Guthrie just said, that if they do ever cease to become the thriving champions of the underdog or whatever that they're so proud of, and we're proud that they're here in Lake Worth, it could turn into something a lot worse than I think even what people speculate. So that being said, anybody else have a comment they'd like to make before we do decide to cast our vote?
Mr. Chairman, I just was speaking with Elizabeth, the attorney, and she was mentioning that your motion can't include a recommendation of not abandoning the right of way. That's something you all can speak individually, but if you wanted to, if there was an interest in making a recommendation to use the portion of the right of way that was a part of the project for public parking, that's a different use for the because the decision to abandon or not abandon is under the scope of the city commission. So if you would say you could, but you could address the parking issue on the portion of the property as within your scope.
Okay, thank you. Anybody question, comment amongst each other, please? Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I believe that everybody believes that South Federal Highway needs to be improved. And we would love to see it improved one way or another. We set the major thoroughfare guidelines at a big expense to our city and to everybody sitting here. We paid for those. We paid consultants, we paid things to do it. I don't think anybody has a problem with the mission of the Lord's Place. It's the execution of what they're doing that seems architecturally and in terms of the urban design. And I think that if some way they were able to satisfy those needs by putting a garbage can by a right of way, providing parking, and keeping their utilities and things away from the public, it would be a much smoother ride. This is what we've been hearing for the meeting. And it's just, we keep hearing it over and over. Last time we asked for them to come back with something that was more amenable to what the board was asking for. And yes, the board is here as a buffer, because if it was just up to staff, the Lord's Place would just be building their building tomorrow. That's why they come to the board to take a look at it. People who know and live in this city and know what it is to deal with real estate and construction. So unfortunately, I feel that at this point, it's been a very weak reshuffle of what the last proposal was. And I would welcome a better thought out plan that had parking in the right of way. And I think that is going to cause some changes, major changes in their plans one way or another. Also, the garbage should be changed, because if you have the right of way with parking at the end of that, you can put in the parking, you can put in the garbage, which is exactly what happens across the street. So I can't really buy the fact that Public Works doesn't buy that concept, because they do it right across the street.
So you're
Those are
saying
my comments.
your comment would be to put the dumpster at the end of.
At the end of the 9th Avenue South, right on their property. What's wrong with that? And then the people next door wouldn't be crying about foul odors and a beeping garbage truck at 6 in the morning. And that's going to go all the way through the site. So it's going to go in, beep, 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 and it's going to come out, beep, beep, beep. And garbage trucks don't smell very well. I mean, you understand that, right? We all get it. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Mark, any comments?
No, the right away there, yeah, I don't know how to, I'm just against giving away the right away.
Okay, that's fine. Zaid, any comments?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm going to vote to approve the applicant's application. And I was just going to explain why I was going to do that. These are just my comments. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the way I see it is there's really one issue before us at this point, and that is whether the variance regarding bedroom size should be, whether we recommend to grant that. Everything I've heard from the applicant regarding the program's design and the bedroom size and the common areas completely satisfies that in my mind. So I will be voting in favor of it. That's my only comment, because that's really the only issue I believe that is before the board at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Let's see. Who haven't we heard from?
I believe it was. Yeah, I think the chair is calling. Do you have any comments on the item?
I just like one additional comment. I think that if, you know, in regards to the unit size, I would not have an issue with that because, you know, I think that we need to be adaptable. Their program is different. Our unit size is designed for apartment buildings or a typical living situation. Their program is different than that. In general, they do have enough space to meet those requirements, but they've chosen to design it in a different way because that's the program of what they do. So I'm in agreement with that, and I don't have an issue with that.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Laura's next. Laura, did you have any final things?
Laura?
I disagree with both of the comments, that the only issue before us is the size of the units. I disagree with that. I don't think that's the only issue before us. And I disagree with adjusting the size of the units. Our code is very clear on what the size of the units are supposed to be. And it's setting a very bad precedent for other developers to come in and make the same types of claims going forward.
Okay, anything else, Laura?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, then, Aaron, what's next?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, if you would like to entertain a motion, that would be appropriate at this time.
Could I just, Mr. Chairman?
Hold on, Greg, Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate one more time regarding the public comment that we received. That all of the letters that were presented from the previous meeting to staff, as well as the ones that were received within the past few days, have been included to the board members for their review, as well as some of the members or some of the residents or citizens that have submitted comments that were read this evening. And again, just to remind everyone, if you had previously submitted a comment, you're allowed one comment, you know, get multiple comments. So if there's, for those persons who submitted more than once, who submitted written comment, there's no allowance for submitting written comment as well as being heard in public as well via Zoom this evening. So just one comment per resident citizen, just to be clear.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, that being said, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Juan.
I make a motion to recommend denial of TBZB project number 20-01 or 0036 for residential urban plan development, major site plan and conditional use permit to construct a 7-unit multifamily development as a subject site. The project does not meet applicable criteria for the reasons the board members, please state the reason. The public, with the outcry of the parking that has been used, the fact that the only way that the project stands on its own merits is by taking a right of way, which could be used for the public good and for a substandard apartment that is 600 square feet instead of our standard 900 square feet. And the fact that some of the major Fairfield guidelines are not met with it being a one-story building, not a two-story building, and the parking area out front.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, further discussion, comments? That being said, then I'll call for a vote. I'm gonna try to encapsulate Juan's motion if I can. He advises us to recommend to the commission that our denial of their motion as submitted, and noted some changes, and I don't know how many of those you want to put, we're going to include in that. Obviously, it's the square footage of the individual unit sizes was one, the other was parking on 9th Street was the second.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to read my notes from Mr. Compton's motion? Do you want me to restate that for you, or?
Well, go ahead.
I believe the motion on the floor is that Mr. Compton is recommending, or is making the motion to recommend denial of the project because there is no parking provided in the area and the previous right-of-way area on the south side that would be accessible to the public.
Right.
And, that there is also an objection to that the size, that the proposed size of the units does not meet the city's code, and that the motion maker does not believe that the project meets the major thoroughfare design guidelines.
Okay, is that about it, Juan?
The.
We can't do the right of way because it's
Okay.
not part,
I
so
got
that's
it.
the only
That's
reason why.
fine. No,
I
that's
put it
fine.
out.
That's fine. Then there's something about the dumpster, I guess the dumpster being that close to, but it's
Would you like
fine.
to include that in your motion?
Yes, I would, that the dumpster be away from a neighbor as much as possible. And if it could be included in the right of way.
Elizabeth, does he need to, because it's been motioned and second, does he need to make a motion to amend his motion?
Yes, you can.
And I'd like to admit, I mean, there's one thing. I'd love to see the project get done. I'd like to see it done correctly with the public that is used. And the reason for denial is that I believe there will be a redesign, that this isn't just something we're going to be moving 2 or 3 pieces. We actually have to shift some things, and there'll be work with staff, if they'd like to get through it, to work with the right of way to make it work correctly with what the wishes and the needs of the community are.
If you want to amend your motion to include the dumpster location and the second agrees, then we can add that.
Yeah, I'd like to.
agree.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, you have the motion on
Yes.
the floor.
We do have a motion and a second. Correct, Laura?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Will we do a roll call vote, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman?
roll call, that's fine. Okay, Sherry, go ahead, please.
Sure, Laura,
Yes.
this would be in favor of
Yes.
the,
In favor of the motion.
Yes.
Juan,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Zaid,
No.
Edmund,
Could I just explain? I'm going to say no. The reason why I do agree that there's an issue with the dumpster, but I don't feel that the unit size is really an issue.
okay, that will be noted. And Greg,
Yes,
motion carries 4-2.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. This item will be scheduled for the city commission meeting for the first meeting in October. And we'll move forward with the recommendation by the board.
thank you, Aaron.
Mr. Chairman, if you could give me a moment, I need to kind of switch everybody for the next item.
Okay, go ahead, take your time. Go ahead, take your time.
The next item is the school district item, I believe. No, Rag House, I apologize. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to read the item, Mr. Chairman, and then staff will get started?
Yes, I will here. Let's see here. It's this unfinished business B. Excuse me, no, new business B?
Business A, Mr. Chairman, I believe.
New business A, okay. PCB project number 20-005-00005. Consideration of a conditional use permit request to establish a special interest dealership use in the mixed use Dixie Highway, MU Dixie, at 701 North Dixie Highway. The request is to establish the proposed use within the current 8,425 square foot commercial building. That's it.
Mr.
Back to you.
Did you want to ask for disclosures at this time?
Yes, let's do that too. I'll start off. I know Shannon Materio and Phil. I've known them for years, and yes, Shannon called me when this first was getting ready to come out, and we talked briefly about it. My conversations with her will not be affected by our phone conversations of that day, but I wanted to let everybody know that. Please, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also am a neighbor, and Phil had told me that this was gonna be coming before us, that the building had been up for sale for years, and this was one of the options, but it's not gonna affect my decision, so.
Staff is ready to provide our presentation, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready.
Please.
Good evening, board. For the record, Dr. Slasky, Principal Planner with Community Sustainability Department. I'll be presenting item B tonight. It is 20 and zoning 21-005-0005. It is a conditional use permit for ragtop motor cars. In front of you is a consideration for a conditional use to request the establishment of a special interest dealership used in the mixed-use Dixie Highway zoning district. The address for the property is 701 North Dixie Highway, and as part of the request, there is an accessory museum gallery use. The request is to establish the proposed use, which is special interest dealership, within the current 8,425 square feet commercial building. The zoning of the properties is mixed-use Dixie Highway. The surrounding properties are also zoned mixed-use Dixie Highway. As you can see over here on the top of your screen, you have the existing conditions of the site, which include the one-story commercial building with parking on the rear. There's 17 existing parking spaces. And at the bottom of your screen, you have the adjacent properties. The future land use of the adjacent property is a little different. You have TOD on the north and west, and you have the same future land use on the south and east. And as I mentioned previously, the zoning district is consistent throughout all the adjacent properties. The use of the properties adjacent to this one consists of an office on the north, which is abutting the subject property. There is a gas station on the south, which is across 7th Avenue. On the east, there's a gas station with service establishment, and on the west adjacent, there's a mixture of single family and multifamily properties. So there is no site for architecture improvements at this time as part of this application. What the board is being asked to do is to consider a change of use for this specific building. So the size of the property is approximately 0.3 acre. The size of the building is 8,425 square feet. And again, it's a one-story building. The parking lot has 17 parking spaces, and the existing use of the property is factory with retail,
And the establishment is named McMahon Art Glass, which I'm sure most of us are very familiar with it. So as part of your report, in the analysis, it is stated that there's no public outreach, and that remains consistent. No one contacted staff or provided letters for board consideration. And the request is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and strategic plan. It is consistent with the land development regulations, and positive findings with the applicable criteria for conditional uses are listed in your staff report. For your recommendation, staff is providing a recommendation of approval with conditions. These conditions are listed on page 8 and 9 of your staff report. Just as a summary of the conditions, they pertain to a parking plan for private events, their limitations of activities and operations for the proposed use, and the proposal is required to provide a minor site plan for any architectural site improvements. As part of the conditions of approval, there are minor modifications that staff is recommending in order to further comply with the land development regulations and to beautify the project and be more consistent with the federal highway design guidelines. What we're asking the board to consider in addition is if there should be any limitations on the number of events, hours of operation, occupancy, to be consistent with the use and the zoning district. I just wanted also to bring to your attention that one of the conditions made by staff were limiting the number of private events to 2 per month and a total of 24 per year. So it's just for you to discuss and determine if that would be appropriate or not. With that, that concludes my presentation, and we have the applicant ready to provide a presentation as well.
Thank you. And who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant?
I will start and then introduce Shannon and Ty, part of the presentation.
Thank you, Wes.
Yes, for the record, my name is Wes Blackman. I'm a certified urban planner with CWB Associates. And Shannon Material and Ty Houck brought me in to help assemble the application for this conditional use for a special interest dealership for classic and special interest vehicles at this location with the accessory used for a museum gallery. We agree with the staff recommendation, and as a professional urban planner, I find it the application consistent with the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan, the land development regulations, and the various conditional use standards as outlined in the staff report. We have a brief slideshow showing pictures of the Ragtops operation taken when it was in operation in West Palm Beach on Dixie Highway. Many of you might remember that. It was north of Belvedere on the west side of the road. And I'd like to introduce Shannon Materio, who is the owner of McMahon Art Glass and the owner of the property. And then Ty Houck, who is with Ragtops Motor Cars, who will be running the operation. And we'll answer any questions. I'll just turn it over to them if they have something else to add.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to see everyone. We've been sitting here very patiently waiting because we're very excited about this new opportunity for the city of Lake Worth Beach.
We've been in business for 41 years. I've lived in Lake Worth Beach for 26 years, and I really am looking forward to bringing it home and a little closer to me. We've been fortunate enough to be able to create an environment that people just really enjoy. They enjoy looking at the cars. And, I quite honestly get more excited when they buy a hat or a t-shirt than when they buy a car. It just means they had a really good time at Ragtops. And our staff is very enthusiastic. We like what we do. And I think with things that are going on in the world right now, that the cars are going to become more of a historic thing than they are actual transportation. Now, hopefully not in our lifetime, but maybe in our grandkids.
So we're excited about answering questions for you. McMahon has been at this location for almost 29 years. We're trying very very hard not to leave Lake Worth Beach. So you may wind up with a twofer.
Right.
And we're excited about,
Yeah, right.
we're excited about
Yeah.
that too.
Right.
Ty and I have been friends Phil and I, my husband, have been friends for 41 years. We've been in business for 44 years, and I think this is the greatest opportunity for an option. We leave, he comes in, we have the same type of clientele, very high end. And also just we draw people that wouldn't normally come into town. It's a different sort of clientele that is typical for tourism. It's a great opportunity. And we love the idea also that we are the gateway road into the municipal golf course, and we're hoping to play off that as well.
We've become a destination, right, wrong, or indifferent. But you know, we sell stuff that people don't need, so we don't try to sell it. And people just enjoy what we do, and I thoroughly enjoy what we do. And this is my last stop. We've moved around. If anybody knows the history of Ragtops, we've been where the Esperanti is, we've been where the MCO and now Bednar's has been. And I'm coming home to Lake Worth, and I'm really looking forward to it.
You'll almost be able to ride your bicycle to work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Can I borrow yours?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, did you want to ask for more comments at this time?
I would love to open it up to the board and let them ask questions at this time if they have any. Mark, you want to start, because I know where you're sitting, so any questions?
Does limiting it to 2 events per month, does that tie your hands, or?
No, Mark, it really doesn't. We've been very, very fortunate to have a great relationship with the hotels. I could probably do more if I went after the business, but I'm not really going after the business right now. So if we were doing 24 events a year, I can say that we would probably do the majority of our, if we could maybe, do 24 events and not make it 2 a month. I mean, and again, this is something for discussion. Corporate America travels mainly from October to say April. The private events, bar mitzvahs, little birthday parties, whatever. We have some corporate board of directors meetings, which are usually 10 or 15, 20 people. They could be any time of the year. I'm just gonna see what happens. I think this new location is going to make an excitement for people that have kind of, when I moved out of the downtown West Palm Beach area, I kind of went undercover for a while. And this is my way to come back and say, hey, we've been kind of quiet for a couple of years. Let's see what happens. It's just it's a cool place to come gather. Many people have been to Ragtops, and we have a great history, and it's been so much fun. I truly don't think I've worked in 41 years. I've just showed up at Ragtops, which is a great experience just for me too.
And if I could just add to, the staff just propose a condition, put it to the board for you all to discuss and figure out what you all would think would be best. But the condition is limited to events of greater than 40 people. There's no limit on small events because that's kind of like your retail equivalent function. And also prior to the issuance of business license, staff has a condition requesting a parking plan or valet agreement for those larger events. So they can be valet parked.
I can certainly address that. I have a valet company that works for me. Actually, they do the Four Seasons. He's been working for me for years. Most of the people, if it's a corporate event, they'll come by, say, trolley, drop off the clients, they'll walk in the door, the trolley comes back, takes them away. And if we do a corporate thing, we have plans to meet with a couple of our little neighbors and work with them. I don't anticipate a problem whatsoever.
Aaron, could we open up the screen? So I'm not looking just at 3 pictures, 3 very
Can I
Three
show you
very
a card
appealing
ring?
pictures.
Chairman, I see that Laura has her hand up.
There you go. Yes.
Mark, are you done?
Yes. Yes.
I've been to a number of events at Ragtops throughout the years, and it was always a very nice, professionally done, well-managed business. It was very interesting to see all the cars, and it would be a welcome business opportunity for Lakewood. We don't have many attractions here. This would be phenomenal for us.
Thank you very much.
I don't understand, I agree with you 100% about the limitation on events, because we all know that absent COVID, most people aren't coming to Florida in June and July. So to restructure, that, or did you have any kind of limitations like that when you were in West Palm Beach?
Not at all. When we were big, we were doing the 300 and 400 people. We've done board of directors for General Motors. We've introduced cars for Ford. We've done Johnson & Johnson, Canadian National. We have people that came from England that would not come to West Palm Beach or to Palm Beach unless they could have a party at Ragtops. We had no restrictions. We did all the mayor's parties. I mean, we were just a cool place to come to. And I want to do that again. I mean, the limit to 40 people is difficult, but I'm willing to give that and say, hey, look, guys, that's fine with me right now. As I get older, I don't need that many people around me that much. And smaller is a little bit better. We can give a little bit better presentation.
No, the limit is only on larger events. It's unlimited smaller events. That was the.
But is there a limit? Is there a reason why they would be limited to a certain number of people?
So staff proposed unlimited smaller events because of the 17 parking spaces. So because of the adjacent residential area, the staff asked for a parking plan and then proposed a limit on larger events greater than 40 people. But we're not tied to the number. It's a general number that we came as a kind of a ballpark for out of respect of the adjacent residential area. So if you feel that number is too low or too high, or you don't want to have a limitation, that you feel the parking plan suffices for the larger events, that would be up to the board to discuss.
Thank you.
And we don't have any public comments or anything, anybody opposing this, do we?
No.
I have a question. Did you want to-
No, but I just remember we had a similar, not the type, same, nothing close to your business, but we had something like this. It was a bar that we didn't have any requirements on parking because of where it was located.
White Owl, it's south of
So
Seventh Avenue.
So why is this different? Why is this different? Why is there an issue with parking on this one when there wasn't with the bar?
So the proposed use is a special interest automobile dealership with accessory use of the parties. So if it was coming in for a banquet hall or a different type of use, it would be, then that would have a different type of consideration. So if you don't want the condition, you don't have to move it forward. It's an item for discussion because it is, it's a narrow, the commercial lot is narrower there and there is adjacent residential. It was for your consideration and discussion.
Thank you, Aaron. Go ahead, Ryan.
My question was, how did you calculate that? You said twice a month or something for a larger event? And is that specifically on weekdays or weekends? How did you figure that out?
The recommendation reads as events greater than 40 people shall be limited to no more than 2 events per month or 24 per year.
And it's not weekends or weekdays, just
No.
whatever. Okay,
So if the applicant wanted, they could have 24 events in December
understand.
or just spread out.
Got it. Okay.
So if in order to do that, they'd have to.
And I guess that was to relieve the crowding and the things around and the parking issues that may arise from it. Right. Yeah, that's my question. The other thing was McMowell it was like a gem for Lake Worth because they used to have kids making pottery there and things like that. And I guess this is a great replacement in the sense that they're also providing some interactive type of things where people would have parties and check the cars out and have kids over, that kind of stuff. So it's a very nice addition to Lake Worth.
For those of you that have never been to Ragtops, it's not, even though he tied deals in automobiles and other stuff too, I'm sure. it's not a car lot per se. It really is more, these cars they're all becoming collector pieces. And they spend more time being wiped down, getting the dust off the paint and everything else. A lot of these 70s cars now become real popular with collectors, because those are the people today that have the money to buy those kind of cars and stuff. And it's like stepping into something that Disney would have built or something. So I don't think we as a city, I think this will be a great feather in our hat, and we get that damn Gulfstream Hotel opened up. It'll really.
I'll put a car in there, Greg.
Yeah, good. Please do.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I don't think you'll be amazed if you've never been to Ragtop at just what a job those guys do operating this thing. Anybody else? Any other board member have questions?
I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Well, just now, I guess I was a little confused. When we talked about the 24 events per year or 2 events per month, are we saying either or? So they would be allowed to have 24 events a year?
Right.
at-
And because the commission read it, it's 2 per month, with a total of 24 per year. So if you wanted to make it 24 per year, you could say 24 per year. If you want to make it 36 per year, you could make
I
it
would-
30 per 6.
Yeah, so my comment is I would be in favor of the 24 events per year, but I don't think they should be limited to 2 events per month. I would just,
Was just to provide guidance.
yeah, I would be amenable to just eliminating the 2 per month. And
You mean 24 per year?
yeah, I think the 24 per year probably is a thoughtful recommendation, but I think the 2 per month is a limitation that we don't necessarily need to hold them to. Because I think they're probably gonna be somewhat seasonal. They're gonna have more events during certain times of year. I don't see why that would be a problem. Well, I was just curious about something else. We talked about the zoning of the adjacent properties, and some of the properties were zoned TOD. Why is TOD in that area?
Yeah, it's the future land use in the zoning district, and at the time the map was made, that was seen as a potential because of the railroad in that area.
Okay.
And for potential for the coastal link, and so that was identified as TOD at the time. So that's what that is.
Which is transit-oriented development, which is more pedestrian-friendly.
And it's also one of our most intense categories for residential.
Mhm.
So it has some of our highest density.
I see. Okay, just curious.
Any other questions? Zaid?
No, all good, Greg. Although I was going to ask if transit-oriented development required some type of cars inside the building, which would definitely be satisfied at this point. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, what he charges for those cars, he didn't have to sell that many, so don't worry about it.
Good question.
Yeah, I'm not that good.
Any other questions? Who would like to make an attempt at a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
I move to approve DCD project 21-005-00005 with staff recommended conditions, with the exception of the limitation on the number of events. Can I add that type of commentary?
Yes, you can. It's your motion.
Okay, yeah, I don't, if West Palm Beach didn't feel the need to put limitations on the number of events, I'm not sure why we need to. If it became a problem, I guess we could address it then, but nobody turned up from the public to even oppose this. So why should we then? They might have years where they do very well and years where they don't do well. They might have a couple luncheons that take up a number of events, and I'm not sure Lakewood wants to get into the business of managing how many times a year somebody has an event. I don't think we did anything like that at Christine's, whatever that place is up the street. We didn't tell them how many events they could have a year. So with that condition, and the same thing with the hours of operation, I think there was a limitation of ending of them at 10 p.m. If it's a weekend event, like a Friday or Saturday, and it's a party, I'm not sure if we can go to 11 or whatever the other time is for our businesses in the downtown area.
Right?
Condition of approval for hours of operation.
Is there one?
No.
I thought I saw something about 10 PM.
Right, that's just the applicant's proposed operation hours.
Okay. And anyway, so I move with those comments, for approval, of a conditional use permit to request, to establish a special interest dealership use in the mixed use, Dixie Highway, MU Dixie at 701 North Dixie Highway, based upon the competent and substantial evidence provided in the staff report and the testimony at the public hearing.
A
We
second.
have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Juan is second. Do we have any other discussions? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion as read by Ms. Starr, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. You want to do a roll call vote, Sherry?
It's 6-0. I didn't hear.
I think we're good. 6-0.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you very much. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
We'll
All
see,
right.
we'll see you opening night.
Yes, yes, you will. Yes, you will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Woo. Thank you.
You're welcome. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Now, I guess to our last case for the evening. I guess it is. Here we go. PCB / HRPB 21-003-00001 and 21-01-3000001. City initiated small scale future land use map flume amendment and zoning map amendment rezoning on behalf of Palm Beach County School District, requesting a flume amendment from single family residential to flume to public P, FLU, and 2, a rezoning from the single family residential SFR zoning district to P, public zoning, on properties located at 1509 Barton Road and 1511 Barton Road, 1515 Barton Road, and 1421 Barton Road. Aaron, is this yours or who's this?
Yeah, this is mine, Mr. Chairman. Let's go ahead and do board disclosures, and then staff will proceed with that.
Anybody have anything to disclose?
Got nothing.
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 Staff is going to do a very quick presentation and turn this over to the Palm Beach County School District. This item was initiated on behalf of the school district. This is adjacent to Barton Elementary School, and this is the Palm Beach County Education Foundation. It is a current future land use map amendment, and it is a rezoning or a zoning map amendment. I know we have some new board members. In the state of Florida, you are required to have a future land use map, which has a land use designation, which gives your maximum densities and intensities, and is a kind of a general use plan. You also have your zoning district, and the zoning district within the district provides the land development regulations for development on the site. These properties are located at 1509 Barton Road, 1511 Barton Road, and 1421 Barton Road. They are both to change the FLU and the zoning district to the public district in FLU. So that's FLU, like future land use, not like your second home.
Okay.
Laughs for me. I know you guys are like, that was a terrible joke, but okay. All right, Barton Road here's the intersection location. Here's the zoning and the future land use map. The background, the applicant is the school district. It is a city initiated amendment on behalf of the school district. Again, this current zoning district or future land use is single family. In part, this is a corrective amendment because it is currently a school district property. Institutional uses are historically permitted in single family, but the correct zoning and land use is public. Here are the existing uses, the existing conditions. Staff's analysis is consistent with the comprehensive plan and strategic plan and provides for sufficient levels of service for the children in the future land use category. Staff is recommending approval of the future land use map amendment from single family residential to the public designation. Again, staff is also recommending the zoning map or the rezoning. As the item is consistent with the comp plan, strategic plan, the city's LDRs, and the rezoning criteria in section 23(2)-36 of section 4. This is a rezoning from the single family district to the public district. Here are the potential motions, which are also included in your staff report. I will stop the share. If Chris, I don't know if you're online, Chris and Michael Owens, were you all sworn in? I believe you were, and I'm having trouble promoting Michael for some reason, I don't know why. So, Chris, did you want to take the lead? Or on this item, or Mr. Gavrilos, did you all want to speak?
I'll defer to Chris to set the standard. Chris or Mike, who wants to go first?
I was not sworn in, as I was expecting Michael to be our lead. Michael was sworn in, as was James.
Okay, so Michael, he just got promoted, Chris, so we'll go with him.
Thank you.
Michael, we can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Michael Owens here, Senior Planner with the School District of Palm Beach County. It's pretty much just a straight rezoning and a change of future land use for a property we own. So I really don't, we don't have anything to show. It's insofar as site plan or anything like that. So if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. And if there's anything that Mr. Gavrilos can answer, we will tag team and answer them to the best of our ability.
Did you guys want to go over the program for the education foundations used for the property? I know they were going to have it as a center, and if you wanted to speak to that, I think the board would be interested in that.
James, did you want to say something, or?
Yeah, I can address that, Michael, if you would. And first of all, I want to thank Chairman Rice. It's always good to see you again, Greg. And just thank the entire board for the work you do, long hours. My name is James Gavrilos, and I'm the CEO of the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County. The intent is to put our headquarters on this property. It would be our office space. We have a staff of 7. In addition, it would house our Red Apple Supplies. Red Apple Supplies has become the signature program of the Education Foundation. In just 5 years, we've gone from serving 8 schools to this year we serve 63 of our Title I schools. And I would add that every school within about a 5-mile radius of the proposed location are currently being served by Red Apple Supplies. For those of you who may not be familiar with the program, what that means is, let's say Greg Rice Elementary School is one of our Red Apple Supply participants. Every teacher in that school gets to come twice a year and shop. And we literally give them whatever school supplies they need for their children. Last year, we passed out just about $1,100,000 worth of school supplies. Our intent one day is to serve all 179 schools in the school district. No teacher should ever have to dip into their own pocket to buy school supplies for their kids. And so the intent of the school district has been very supportive of Red Apple Supplies, as well as the Education Foundation in general. And our intent, as I said, is to build a facility that would house our Red Apple Supplies and the Education Foundation headquarters, centered right here in beautiful Lake Worth Beach, to serve the needs of our students.
Very good.
I believe we have a public comment on this item.
Yes, we do.
Then let us hear it, Sherry.
Okay, this is from Erica Catola Bell. And she states, as a homeowner on Tropical Drive, I have site design concerns for the proposed headquarters of the Education Foundation and the Red Apple Supply Distribution drive-through. In general, I am in favor of the proposed zoning change and improvement over what is there now. However, my concerns are these. The alleyway behind the site also runs behind my house. Since the city acquired the property at 1421 Barton, traffic in the alley has increased and the property driveway and the alley are now being used as a through street between Barton and 14th Avenue South. Accessibility to the proposed site should be restricted to Barton Road. The second concern is the site now contains the last bit of natural unbuilt trees and shrubs in the neighborhood. The site design should include park and trees to offset environmental degradation caused by the loss of natural habitat. Thank you for your attention.
That's the only letter.
That's the only one we received.
Thank you, Shay. Okay. Board members have questions?
Is there a reason, is there a reason why the proposed future building, whatever structure that's gonna be there would need to use the alley? Is it gonna cause them a problem? But if we were to say approve, but you have to only use Barton Drive, is that a problem? Do they need to be able to use the alley?
How are they gonna block the alley off?
Tonight before you, it's just the future land use and zoning, so the site can come back at a later time.
Okay, I was just trying to address the concern of the resident who lives on the saying she wants. to-
Right, I understand what you were doing.
What we, I think probably the best thing to do is to ask the school district or require the school district to reach out to the resident or direct them to reach out to the resident and the Education Foundation to address the adjacent neighborhood concern site design.
I have a question. How many houses are on there, single family houses? Are those the little dots that I see everywhere, the little rectangles?
Those are portables that we used when it was the South Intensive site.
Are there any single family residential homes there?
No, I think what happened was when we purchased the site, I think there was a church at one time on the site nearest the elementary school across the street.
Has that been demolished or?
At this time, we don't have any plans, but, we're working with the Education Foundation to when they get some funding, and we'll worry about site design, when we have, figure out what the budget's going to be and what they really want to, place on the site. At this time, we're not demolishing anything. We just want to make sure that we have the zoning and the land use consistent, so that when we do move forward, there's one less issue to worry about.
Oh, that's fine. So Aaron, a question for you. Have you confirmed that all of these are mobile structures?
So if they came in for a site plan, they would have to come in and they would relocate the portables, or they're coming, from what I understand, and Michael and James, if you can correct me, is that you're coming in for a new site and a new building on these.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, is there anything that's in the ground right now? Because he's saying there was an old church or something, or?
Yeah, if I might be able to address that. We've been working with some preliminary work with one architect, Song and Associates, just to give us some basic ideas. And I think we're all in agreement those portables would be demolished. That A-frame structure, which I assume was a church, our intent right now is to leave that as is and just use that for, additional storage space. But those portable units would come down.
Okay, none of those were actually the question. I just wanted to simply know, like, what's locked into the ground on the property? Because the portables, you can get rid of them overnight. I mean, that's not a problem, right? Are there any buildings here?
Just the church, just the original church structures that are to the south of the site or on the larger parcel.
Okay, is that long structure that I see there?
Correct.
That is a long structure.
Across the street from Barton Elementary, directly across.
And nothing else on the property that's actually locked into a foundation, is that correct?
Yeah, I would think the rest of them are just older wooden portables that we've had on site for some time. And then there may be some concretes, but I think they're mostly older portables.
This pictometry picture, let me stop share, reshare. So
Right.
it makes it's from February of this year. Hold on a second. Like it should give you a better view.
There you go.
Okay.
Wow. You can leave most of those portables there. In a couple of years, you won't have to worry about them anyhow.
Okay.
The the site to the north, where the more vacant site, natural site, it has a lot of Brazilian pepper and other things. So they would need for that one, they would see disposition to identify the structures and then remediate for loss of trees.
Yep.
So, but there seems to be a lot of volunteers on that property.
Anybody else have comments? Somebody like to make an attempt at a motion on this particular item of discussion? Maybe you didn't hear my I'll beg if I have to. Anybody?
Oh,
else
Mark,
have-
I started.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I move to recommend approval of PZB project number 21-003-00001 and 21-013-00001 of the proposed amendments to the future land use map and the zoning map based on the data and analysis in the staff report and the testimony at the public hearing.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Looking around.
for land use and the rezoning both? And Mark, just for clarity, or is that for the future land use?
I'm sorry?
Is that for the future land use and the rezoning?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, no, I just wanted to.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all as one.
And I second.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Have the motion as stated. Please say aye. Sharon.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. And thank you. Thank you, board members.
Thank
Well,
you.
we've had an interesting evening, I think. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Sarah.
Thank you,
very much.
everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
You too.
Sometimes it's unfortunate we can't get our quick ones done just by the nature of it. First, so.
Aaron, anything else for us tonight?
No, sir, we don't have any department updates, so at this time, unless you have any questions, other than we have tweaked the staff reports. And we've kind of done more of a summary on the first page of just the general information for consistency. We found that our staff reports were taking more time to do because we were repeating some information throughout. So we try to just kind of streamline the format so it's a little bit less time on staff and to try to provide the information in a more concise way for you all.
Good. Good.
So,
Are you gonna work us a little harder, second half of this year?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Are you gonna work us a little bit harder the second half of the year than we did for the first?
I think you guys had some pretty robust agendas this year, so we'll see.
Yes, we have.
We're at the mercy of the private market, so what comes in, comes in.
Okay. Let's make sure we get it turned around and get it back out. Well, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for their work tonight. Some good discussions, good comments. I hope that some of those things that we pointed out will be used to the benefit of the community. I'm sure they will. And with that being said, I will call this meeting of September 1st. Wow. September 1st, 2021, P&Z board meeting, P&Z board for the city of Lake Worth Beach closed.